we are. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Personnel Commission's regular meeting on March 3rd. It's 4:30, and I am calling us to order. Secretary, would you kindly call the roll?
Of course, Chairperson. Chairperson Goldstein.
Present.
Vice Chairperson Zenner Davis.
Present.
And Commissioner Roeder.
Here.
Super, thank you. We'll move on to item 3 of our agenda, which is public comment. I see Mark Ramia is joining us, and I am guessing that some of these folks who are joining us now will want to make a public comment. So we'll put that on the table. If you would like to make a public comment, please use the little icon, the waving icon, or unmute and let us know that you're there and you'd like to. In terms of a change for this agenda.
I do not. I do not.
Okay, bear with me a minute and I'll describe mine. So I have one change and one question. Other thing asking maybe for our AB is
recording.
Great. Okay, thank you. So Brian, you resume the recording?
I just resumed. It looks like Aaron's picked up.
Super. So we're recording is the point. Okay.
Chairperson Goldstein, could I ask a question then on item 8B?
Sure.
It becomes a discussion item rather than a conference item. Then does that indicate that at the meeting we could not take any action on
Correct.
the item? But it's agendized as a conference item. Conference item doesn't mean we have to take action, but it means we could take action. I'm not exactly clear if we wanted to take action on it, why we would switch it to a discussion item.
Well, the reason I brought it up is because there's a conflict in the documentation queuing the thing. So my first desire is to make sure I'm clear on why there's the conflict and why our secretary thought it was appropriate as a discussion item. So Secretary, maybe I'll ask you to respond to that.
Of course. I think to maintain the integrity of the process for reclassifications moving forward for everyone, it's in everyone's best interest if we allow the process of analysis and interview and documentation gathering to continue rather than to be discussed or decided in a public forum. I think it does the process, it doesn't do justice to the process itself. So I'm never going to prevent anyone from bringing up a discussion item. But I have already advised Ms. Ferguson and Ms. Robinson that I don't think that this should be a conference item in a public forum. And I explained why, which is in summation, not much different than how I just explained it to you now. So I think, again, I'm not going to stand in the way of someone wanting to discuss in a public forum. It's a freedom of speech issue for me. They should be able to discuss whatever they'd like to. But I also have a responsibility to make sure that the reclassification process itself is agnostic and free of a pre-deliberation before I've had the opportunity to do what I'm supposed to do before presenting it to the commission.
All right, thank you.
I see. So
Does
the,
that help?
the idea being that it's basically not ready for action. It's ready for discussion, but not for action. So based on that, I have no objection.
Okay.
The one question that I do have is, after this discussion, will a reclassification process be underway, or is there a reclassification process underway?
Well, I want to be clear to the commission. I am not recommending to put forward a reclassification discussion or conference item. This is the request of the applicant for the reclassification.
Right, I understand that. I guess my question is there a reclassification application in, and is there any work being done towards a reclassification that might come back to us?
There will be. There will be. I want to make that separate from this session.
Right, so can I see that right now, the only question on the table is it a discussion item or is it a, Marie, this won't be the time right now. I see your hand up. We're not going to discuss anything further on it yet, other than how are we classifying it, for purposes of the agenda. So
I need clarification what you're saying. I'm not
Commissioner
hearing you.
Davis's question, when we discuss it, and we'll either discuss it as a discussion item or as a conference item, in today's agenda, then I think your other questions will be answered.
No, you didn't even know what I was saying, Heidi. When I came on board, I didn't hear everything that Castillo was saying. I need to be clear on what he was saying. That's what I'm trying to get you to understand. I didn't hear the first part of what he was saying.
Okay, so the question on the table was, in the documentation that you submitted, you asked for it to be a conference item. Secretary Castillo, when he signed off on it, labeled it as a discussion item. So the reason we're talking about it is because of those two differences.
Okay.
So, now that we have talked a little bit about, those two differences and how we might handle it, I would like to move for item 4 that we approve this agenda with the following changes. We exclude item 7E. We relabel item 8 as discussion, and we move what is currently 8C into discussion. And then we relabel what is currently conference items number 8 to be number 9, and then everything sequentially behind that we'll move up a different number so that we have an agenda that sequentially makes sense and that also incorporates this issue. So that's my motion.
Just on the question, Madam Chairperson, did I hear what is currently item 8C, which is request for extension of eligibility list, human resources technician? That will simply be moved up.
No, 7E.
No, wait, I'm not talking about 7. I'm talking about 8.
Right.
We have an
8B.
8C currently.
Oh,
Request for
right.
extension eligibility list, human resources technician. I just want to be sure that is going to remain a conference item.
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
that doesn't change.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Okay, sorry for the confusion there. The two remaining items in the conference item section now become 9A and I guess 9C. We'll just leave it as 9C to show we moved something.
Okay. I second the motion.
Thank you. Can I have a vote?
And I agree.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's move on to item 5, approval of the meeting minutes. And these are the meeting minutes from the February 3rd regular meeting.
I did not see any changes, Madam Chairperson.
I did not either. And if you are good, Chairperson, then I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Second,
Second that.
great. Okay, and I agree. All right, so we'll, those minutes from third regular meeting are. Let's move to our reports section. So is someone, I see several people could be here from BCE. Is someone here from BCE to give the union report? Do you raise a hand or you're on mute? Estelle, you're on mute. Can you knock yourself off? All right, and or Aaron, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I just say that I'm the only executive officer here from BCE. Frank is out today and I don't have a report relay from him. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the district report. Glendalee, I see is here. And I don't know if she needs to, if she can unmute or if she needs to be unmuted all.
All right. I have nothing to say.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Let's move on to commissioners. Any commissioner reports?
I have nothing today.
Well, I have a very quick report. So anybody who's been following these meetings knows that we are in the process of updating our merit rules. And the process that we're going through is that the executive director and I are doing sort of a first run at various sections of the merit rules. They haven't been updated 1989. They are way overdue. And then we scheduled various public meetings with the commissions. And so we've now had 2 public meetings and they have gone extremely well, I think. And we've had some members of public, not too many, but a representative of DCE was at one of our meetings, and we had our most recent meeting yesterday. We have now completed the first draft, and nothing is final yet, but first draft, we have completed the first draft of the application section of merit rules. We're now all and my 2 colleague commissioners for the hours. We spent 3 hours on this yesterday, going through word by word, line by line. So I'm deeply indebted to my 2 commissioners for participating in that. Our next meeting, public meeting, will be Wednesday, April 13th, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And the public is absolutely invited to participate. It's a workshop type of meeting, so that if there's input from BCCE, from the district, from Local 29, from 21, I mean, from anybody who's interested, that's very welcome. So thank you very much for everybody for participating in this process. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you. My report is fairly brief. Several of us will be at the California School Personnel Commissioner Association conference this coming weekend. It runs through the 6th through the 8th. I've attended these before. I've found them super useful. And I've been at this for a while. So, you know, my hope is actually that our secretary really finds them useful. And that our staff, I think Aaron is attending, but Brian, you are not, I think, right? Oh, you are attending. Oh, sweet. Okay, great. Good. we will all be just that much more knowledgeable. So looking forward to learning what we can learn at that conference. Let's move on to the director's report. Oop, you're also.
Sorry, I have dogs barking in the background. I apologize. I'm muting myself when
okay.
I'm not speaking.
Okay.
And forgive me if you hear my dogs. Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Commissioner Roeder. I agree. I think the project is grueling but rewarding, and a lot of attention is being paid to, even the minute details. So I'm really excited about that. Report on exams. We did a total of 82 exams this month as compared to 69 for the month of February. And that was 7 performance exams, 23 oral exams, 54 written exams, and 19 training and experience assessments. We had 3 new hires in the classified ranks and 1 promotion from a reclass. I have right now 2 pending reclasses and 2 employees who've expressed interest in reclasses. So I do think that it is important for the commission and the district to start evaluating where we are in terms of our job descriptions and our salaries. And I am working with HR, continuing to in this process. So more to come on that. I'll be sending out an email in the next week or so regarding the evaluations, performance evaluations for the classified employees. I believe very strongly that that's an important metric. It's an important measurement, but most importantly, it's an important opportunity for the employee to hear how they can improve, what they're doing well, and most importantly, what are the goals and expectations. My observation in 6 months, almost 7 months of being here is that that's not always communicated. So my hope and desire is that the principals and administrators take this process seriously and that they sit down with their employees and have a constructive conversation. It's my understanding that there are thankfully no layoffs at this time. I think that's my report. The last thing I'll say is that we've been very, very busy lately, busier than usual. And I think I could probably only attribute that to the time of year and probably the superintendent's announcement. But we are very happy to be engaged, very happy to be working with everyone on the district side. And I think there's a lot of positive things to come. So thank you. That's my report.
Thank you. Let's move on to item 7, which are our consent items. So per what we did in the agenda adoption, although there are 5 listed, we are really only going to vote on the first 4, A through D, because we pulled item E. So let me ask my fellow commissioners if they have any comments or concerns or anything else that they would like to address on the eligibility lists.
I did not.
Oh, you're muted, Tim. All right, Aaron, is there a way?
Okay.
I'm not sure why everyone's getting muted.
I don't have anything.
Okay. I just have one question. If someone maybe can give me some additional just perspective on what happened. The new list D, the nutrition services list, has 2 ranks. It looks like we started out with 8 applicants and 7 of them went through performance tests, but somehow we only wound up with 2, by the end. And I'm just wondering, because, this one always comes up. We seem to have trouble getting people. So I'm just looking for more information on what happened. Aaron, please go ahead. And you're muted.
I believe only 2 people showed up for the performance exam.
Oh, so we really didn't do 7, we did 2, or how are we counting?
The performance examination,
Mhm.
that might have been a typo. I think 7 were invited, but only 2 were present.
Okay, so can I ask that we correct it, in the minutes, let's just correct that 7 was really 2. So we're clear on what went on. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. If there are no other comments or questions about our eligibility list, do I have a motion?
Yes, I'll move approval of the consent items, ratification of eligibility lists A through D.
I'll second.
Thank you. And I agree. So we have approved eligibility lists A through D. All right, let's move on to our new section 8, which is the discussion item, previously known as a conference item. For Marie, I see that you are using a different spelling these days. Are you pronouncing it differently?
What? No, this is my son's name.
Oh, okay, just checking. Fine. Okay, so for Marie Ferguson. So, Secretary, would you please walk us through the request?
Can I say something before Castile? Because it's something that I left off on the front page. When I filled out the form to say reclass, this is not a reclass in title or anything. This is a reclass in salary range. That's what I'm talking about. And I have 2 letters that you guys should have received from the principal and vice principal. He can go ahead and I'll talk later.
Secretary, please go ahead.
Of course. So Chairperson, I don't want to speak on the item because I want to be able to keep the process and integrity of the process of a reclass intact. I think that to speak to it without actually doing my proper analysis, I don't do the process justice. So I don't think it's in Marie's interest or anyone's interest for me to speak to it at this time.
Sure. Could you just, to edify the group, just give them an idea of what the process is when we receive a request and, typically, when we're able to do our research, prior to it coming to the commission?
Of course, Chairperson. So the process involved is, firstly, there is a reclassification form that once either Aaron or myself or Brian on occasion receive a request for a reclassification, we then send the forms to the applicant. The applicant will then complete the form, and Ms. Ferguson was good enough to actually submit her form. So there's a model of it there for you to look at. But it is a rather lengthy form. We do request very specific information on the form. And once that's submitted, I will always have questions that follow. I'm going to have specific questions as to the work that was done. And then I will usually interview the supervisor who gave the employee the work. And then lastly, I would go back to the employee to verify the information that I have is correct. And at that time, I would do the analysis with the simple basis of the analysis being what the merit rules state, which is a 2-year accretion of increased duties that are not currently in the job description. So that is a consistent 2-year time frame in which the employee has been asked to perform duties that are outside the scope of the job that they are in and being paid to do. So at that time, if there is enough contemporaneous evidence to support the 2 years, I will make a recommendation to the commission. If there is not enough evidence to support the 2-year requirement, then I will not support the request. So that's the process. It goes as fast or as slowly as the participation, and sometimes I can't get in front of some supervisors in a timely fashion. But I think so far we've done pretty well. The last one we did took 3 months, maybe 4, which was not ideal, but we did have at the end of the process enough documentation to be able to speak to all aspects of it if the commission had raised questions. So this is a very, very serious process. It needs to be taken very seriously, and I don't want to influence it in any way if I'm going to move forward with Ms. Ferguson's request.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me find out before we turn over the speaking to Marie Ferguson, if any of the commissioners just have any questions about what Secretary just described, because I know Commissioner Davis, you had some questions earlier on.
Yeah, no, I mean, he pretty much answered what I needed.
Okay, right. You haven't been through it this much. You know, you
No.
haven't seen that many as a new commissioner. So I understand wanting a better sense of what's going on.
Well, also, it was just, you know, the fact that there was a conflict in what was asked for on that sheet and then how it was put on the schedule. I just wanted to make sure that something was happening so that, Ms. Ferguson was getting her due process. That's what I'll say.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Roeder, any comments?
No, I have some questions that are substantive, but nothing about the process that Secretary Castillo recounted.
Do you want to pose those questions now, or?
I could, if you think it's appropriate.
I think it is, yeah.
Okay, well, I have one kind of fundamental, I guess, threshold question. And that is, as I read the documentation that Ms. Ferguson supplied to us, what the gist of what I got out of it, and of course she's going to amplify when it's her time to do so, but the gist that I got was that Ms. Ferguson was comparing herself and her position and her duties to those of a, let me get it correct, school administrative assistant 2, whereas Ms. Ferguson is a school administrative assistant 2 substitute specialist, which has significant additional duties that she has outlined. The school administrative assistant 2 classification is at salary range 46. And Ms. Ferguson has stated that prior, I think, to a previous reclassification study, the person performing essentially, in Ms. Ferguson's opinion, the functions of that job were in salary range 50. And that's what Ms. Ferguson is asking. And she pointed out earlier that it's not really that the duties are to be reclassified, it's really the salary range. My question is, because Ms. Ferguson was comparing herself to the school administrative assistant 2, which is in range 46, I'm wondering what salary range is Ms. Ferguson currently in? Because as I read the school administrative assistant 2 substitute specialist, that is range 48. So I just want to be sure, as a threshold question, Is Ms. Ferguson in range 46 or is Ms. Ferguson in range 48?
And I think probably Aaron or Secretary Castillo can probably answer that. Maybe not at this exact moment. But, you know, that I think part of the, you know, the whole process of analyzing this and the documentation that typically comes from that will help us understand that.
Sure.
But, you know, fair question. So before I turn it over to Miss Marie, anybody on, you know, commissioners, any other questions, comments? Okay, Marie, go ahead.
Is it Isaac? Isaiah, I can't. remember.
Isaiah Roter, but I
Mr.
also go
Roter.
by Izzy. So
Okay.
feel free to call me Izzy.
Izzy, my position is a 48 at the high school, where I support, well, I have over 3,200 kids at Berkeley High, over 300 staff. And the reason I'm coming before this body, I came back in 2017 through 2019 for the same problem I'm having now for a reclass. I'm not asking for a reclass in title, I'm asking for a reclass in the salary, because the position was a program assistant, range 50, over 20 years. When they did a classification study in 15-16, that position went away, but the work did not go away. And when I transferred to the high school, it was a 46. When Patty Duell came out and did the reclass and received a new title, that's how it became a 48. If you look at the two documents, letter of recommendation from Juan Raygoza and Tanya Coleman speaks to the duties that I do. I'm not being compensated for everything at an accurate pay. So that's why I'm here before this body, and that's why I started off stating it's not a reclass in title, but a reclass in salary.
Appreciate your clarifying that.
Thank you.
Any other comments from anybody at this point? Marie, if you're done, anyone else?
Well, Ms. Ferguson, I do have a question. So the position was reclassified at 48 base. Now, I guess my question is, was it based on the work you were doing at the time? And then since then, have there been additional duties added to what you are doing?
Yes. The reason that the sub specialist part came on there is because at the high school, I'm the only person that handles the subs. I find subs via phone call, emails, text messages to teachers and to substitutes. Elementary and middle only contacts Betty Pizarro and she finds the subs for them. I do the whole process at the high school by myself. I find the subs and I do full day absence, partial absence, which is partial periods. I have to find the subs. I have to fill those positions. That was a gradual increase in duties when I arrived to Berkeley High in 2017. So that's why it was increased at that time for a reclass in title. I got a new title, but as a school admin sub specialist, that's a standalone position. But I have other duties in addition that was not looked at before, and I have documentation previously stated the same things that I stated this time that I've been doing, and it was not looked at prior. And if you see the letter that was submitted today, you'll understand what I'm saying from the principal and the vice principal supporting what I said.
Yeah, and thank you for those documents, and thank you for how exhaustive both your letter and then the letters as well. So thank you. Yeah, you answered my question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, last call for any additional comments. So Secretary Castillo has explained his process, and now that this request is in play, we have an idea of what he will be doing to look at the request. So it may go quickly, or it may take a little longer. We may not see this in April. You know, we may see it in May. But I think I wanted the people in this call at least to understand how it's handled as a request. So with that, we will move on from item 8 to item 9. We have 2 conference items. So we'll start with 9A, which is the request for the bilingual library media specialist at Sylvia Mendez. And Secretary, I'll ask you to speak first on this. And then I see that Veronica is here and probably also would like to speak to it.
Well, I've been here long enough to know not to steal Veronica's thunder, so I'll keep my comments short. I strongly and enthusiastically support it. I think that it's important for the children at the school to be able to access all of the collection, and it is dual immersion. It only makes logical sense to have someone who can actually speak the 2 languages and it's bilingual. It's a pretty matter-of-fact thing for me, and I'm actually really happy that I'm really happy to move it forward. So with that, I leave it to Veronica to explain more. Thank you.
Okay, Veronica, why don't you go ahead, please?
Oops. Am I unmuted now? Good. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Good evening, Davis. It's a pleasure to see you. All my love to the family. Please send them my
Absolutely.
love. Isaiah is a former student. That's how we
Yes.
know each other. So we know each other as a family and as a community. And now we come here, coming to represent Sylvia Mendez with the request to make to switch the position for the library media specialist to a bilingual position. And as Charlie has stated, yes, it is pretty logical. In our thinking, in our mind, over the past 9 years here as the principal, we have converted this school into a dual immersion program with Spanish and English. And so we started off with, when I started here, it was just one classroom, one cohort at a time that was moving through. And then eventually we phased in a complete school so that all the students who enter Sylvia Mendez are coming here to learn how to read, write, and speak in Espanol and in English. And so, yes, with that, Mrs. Stella has been a pivotal, just one of the crutches of Sylvia Mendez. She started off at Sylvia Mendez as a family. Her daughters attended Sylvia Mendez, and so she started off at Sylvia Mendez as a parent, and then she became an employee with Berkeley Unified School District. And so if you want some historical knowledge about Sylvia Mendez, you talk to Estela Cisneros, because she has it both as a parent, but also as the library media specialist. And so when we joined forces, Estela took the role, as she took the lead of really building a robust Spanish library collection at Sylvia Mendez. I think when she started, she said maybe when we transitioned into a full 2-way immersion program, I think she said we had maybe like 500 Spanish books in the library approximately. And that's not enough, as you know, especially if you're building a foundation with all of our students for them to be completely bilingual in Spanish and English. You're going to need far more books in Spanish and English than you are than 500 books. So Estela really took on that challenge, and she really rose to the challenge. And now, we currently have over 4,500 books in Spanish. That's 37% of our collection that Estela has done single-handedly. And so I really want to commend the work that Estela has done. But with that, that was not part of her roles and responsibility because, prior the position had not been created for a Spanish bilingual or dual immersion program, right? But Estela took that on, and she's always having additional hours to really provide a robust program for our students, and then to also make sure that all of our students have access to a book in Spanish and then a book in English, right? And so she's taken that on, and she's actually volunteered a lot of her time, which a lot of other folks would not do. But Estela has done it so gracefully and graciously, and she's done it with so much love and care just to support the program here at Sylvia Mendez. And so now Estela is going to be stepping down, and she's going to take her life back, right, Estela? And she's going to embark on a new chapter of retirement, which I'm super jealous of. And with that, I send her off with lots of love and envy. but at the same time, I'm so happy for her, right? And with that, I think it's time, I think it's really time that we transition and that we change the position to a bilingual library and media specialist, and that, it also be increased to a 1.0, which, as you can tell in the proposal, that the increase would cost an additional $8,040, but that's going to come from the BCEP library services budget, okay? And I also fully understand that the Personnel Commission cannot give a bilingual stipend equivalent to BFT. So I completely understand that as well. Okay. So, Estela, I don't know if you would like to add anything, or Jessica. Estela would like to add something. Go ahead, Estela. If somebody can unmute her, please.
Thank you. So, yeah, so thank you. I just want to also say that Jessica Lee is here. She's the Director of Library Services. BCEP and Library Services have been key in helping us develop the Spanish collection at Sylvia Mendez with some extra funding. There were other programs, Single Strand at Thousand Oaks and Craigmont, and as those libraries were phased out, the Spanish collections, we actually did acquire some of their collections as well, but it has been a work in progress. And so I'm very thankful to the support that Berkeley, the Berkeley Excellence Program has done with this, and also the directors, Jessica Lee now and formerly Becca Todd, have been very supportive in doing that program. I do want to say that in order to have done this work, I did do 4 semesters of Spanish. I am not anywhere close to being fluent in Spanish, but I manage well enough. But one of the critical reasons why we need a librarian who is biliterate is that I come across books, even though they might have good reviews, I come across books that I am not able to read the way I am able to read in English. And so I don't really know all of the nuance and content. I can't, I just can't read that much that fast in Spanish. And so at times I have, even recently, parents who come in and say, my child checked out this book and it says da, 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 da. And then it's like, oh, The Good Slave Owner. No, and that is definitely dated. And yes, I am going to pull that out of the collection. That is no longer appropriate. And because we have been developing the collection, we can get new materials. But in terms of good literature, children's literature, we really need somebody who can read the authentic Spanish books, who know what it is culturally and can do reader's advisory, and that will only grow the program. So I'm very grateful to Veronica for supporting me in developing programs there, the staff and the teachers at Sylvia Mendez. And as I said again, Jessica Lee has been very forthcoming, and she is here. She might want to say a few more words in support of this program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Jessica, your tile moved there. I see you. Okay, there.
There I am. Thank you. I just wanted to say, as the program coordinator and the budget manager, that I fully support this, and we have the funding for it. And in our plan that we're taking to the piano for next year's budget, we'll also be increasing it from 0.9 FTE to 1.0. So that's the part that goes to the board, but we need your approval for the shift to the bilingual part. But again, all the budget is entirely funded and supported through BCEP. So that's all I needed to say. Thanks. And thank you, Estella. You've done a fabulous job for all these years.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioners, this has just been quite an education all by itself. I don't know if commissioners have other questions.
Oh no, see, y'all just like learning about the awesomeness of Sylvia Mendez. I've been on that train. So no, this is awesome. I'm glad to see it happening. I know, my family has been in the dual immersion with our daughter, who is now high school graduate. So back in the day, before they even established the one school as the dual immersion school, there have been issues with resources for this program. And so, it was really good to see them then dedicate Sylvia Mendez as the dual immersion school. But, frustrating to see that some of those same challenges were still happening in terms of being able to get the materials and the resources so that the kids could have a great I mean, it's great anyway, but it's great with a lot of hard work, and it's good to see that we're institutionalizing some things that are going to make it even great. So thank you so much, because it's a great school and a great program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Roeder, please.
Well, for starters, I'm totally supportive of the request, and I do want to commend actually both Ms. Valerio Duncan and also Mr. Castillo for presenting a very complete and concise and just 90% of the questions. I seem to always have questions, but I'd say 90% of the questions that I could have possibly had have been answered by this, by the documentation that's in our agenda. So I'm very, very, as a commissioner, just very appreciative of both of you for presenting that to us in this manner. That's number one. Number two, as I said, I'm totally supportive of this request. I think that the dual immersion program is fantastic, and the fact that there's a need for a bilingual librarian also seems, very, very clear to me anyway. But questions. So first question is just as a matter of process. So would it be true that what the commission would be doing is creating a new classification for this position? And then at some point soon, I imagine, a classification specification would be provided to the commission for approval? Is that the correct process, or do I have that incorrect?
There we go.
Commissioner Roeder, thank you for the question. It is not a change to the job, what we call in technical terms like the class spec. It really is just a distinction and I would call maybe a specialization of the job class, which is this is a bilingual library. So the duties remain the same, except the distinction being one is bilingual and one is not.
Okay. And then the other, I think the only other question I had revolved around the bilingual stipend. And I don't really know. I'm pretty sure that the BCCE contract does have a stipend for bilingual certification. Although I don't really know how that works. And then along with that, one of the things I'm not sure of is if there is a bilingual stipend available, is that available if a minimum qualification for the position is to be bilingual? So I guess I'd like to have a little more clarity on if there is a bilingual stipend and how that works.
I'm looking around just because there's a lot of folks here that can answer this, but I know that there's a bilingual pay that's available in the BCCE and I believe in Local 21. The actual amount escapes me right now. I'd have to defer to Aaron. But it's my understanding that it is available to members. I don't know, Aaron, if you want to speak more to the detail of that.
Erin's got her hand up, so yes, please.
Yeah, so there is a bilingual stipend. It's in the BCC contract. It's, I believe last time I checked, it was about $10 if you, $10 a month if you just read and write, just speak, sorry, and then an extra 15 if you read, write, and speak. So it adds up to a whopping $25. But that is that's something that that BCCE would have to negotiate with the district to change.
When you say to change, but currently, I agree, it's not a whopping amount, but nonetheless, it is there. And would it be true that this individual, whoever is hired, would be eligible for it?
Yes, they would.
They are.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Erin.
Other questions? Commissioner Roeder or no?
No, I don't have any other questions.
Great. All right. And maybe I can riff off your questions, because there was one other thing I wanted to clarify. And I would also just like to re-echo, thank you for a very clear description of what you were asking for. We're not always that lucky, and it makes life a lot easier when we have it. So thank you for that. And for the education about what the library media specialist really does. What I saw in your write-up was it looked, I couldn't tell if the funding for the additional 0.1 FTE was that $8,050 number, or if the stipend was the $8,050 number. Can someone help me understand what that number is?
Jessica, go ahead.
That was the increase in FTE.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Because we didn't have the amount for the stipend.
Okay. And I think what we're hearing here is it's very possible that in, the BFT contract, they pay differently for the stipend than we do. And I want to avoid disappointment later, that in the BCCE contract, it may not be the same. And
Yeah.
everybody's nodding, so it looks like you understand that.
We do. I did want to point out that the BFT stipend is considerably more than the BCCE stipend. And we were, it's a valuable position and it's a valuable skill. So, but I understand we can't pick and choose which contract we follow. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, before we entertain a motion or, anything further, let me just double check. No further questions or comments from commissioners or anyone else?
I don't have any other questions.
I would like to give a shout out to Estela and to Jessica for helping to do the write-up. They helped me complete it. We put our heads together and we worked on it to make it as concise as possible for all of you. So I just want to give them a huge shout out. Thank you. Awesome.
Then I think what we're looking at here, and Secretary, help me if I've got this wrong. I think really what we are motioning to do is to say for this position from which Estela Cisneros is retiring, that with the next recruitment, we are adding a minimum qual, right? And that minimum qual is bilingual proficiency in Spanish.
That is correct, Chairperson Goldstein. We're not creating a new class. We are adding what is essentially a minimum qualification to the job for the recruitment, for the purposes of recruitment. Yes.
Okay, and that is well within the purview of the commission.
It is.
So, do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I second.
Okay, so what we're approving here is adding that minimum qual for bilingual.
Yes.
Okay, and I agree. So we will go ahead and do it. Thank you very much for coming and explaining this to us. And thank you so much for having a great program. It sounds like an amazing program.
It is.
So let's move on. one last item, and that's 9C, which is the request for the extension for the eligibility list for the human resources technician. So Secretary, again, I'll ask you just to give us some context.
Of course. So whenever we have a list that may, expire soon, and I know that we have viable candidates, especially internal candidates that are on the list, I'm going to recommend that we extend it, because especially now with superintendent search on the way looming, we definitely want to be able to extend that opportunity to those on that list. So that's why I'm recommending the extension of the HR technician list.
Do the commissioners have questions?
Just one, just for clarification. So, was I reading it wrong? This list had been approved once before, and now we're just doing it another year to be within that 2-year?
Correct. We're just extending the list that
Yeah.
exists. Yeah.
Okay.
Commissioner Roeder, do you have questions?
Well, I guess I have a comment. I mean, I'm not thrilled by this, frankly. I think that, I'm sort of looking for, sort of an emergency need for doing this, some kind of exigent circumstance. I'm not sure I see one. When I first joined the commission and Commissioner Davis, Vice Chairperson Davis, did the same around the same time. I think it had been the policy during COVID that the commission sort of almost automatically extended lists for another year. And then Mr. Gordillo stepped in as the interim executive director and really told us that wasn't such a great idea. And we ceased extending lists. So, I mean, I understand that they're viable candidates, but I think there's another argument, which is that there may be people who have been counting on this list expiring and a new recruitment occurring for which they would apply. I'm talking about internal employees. And so there's an element of unfairness there. It strikes me. I have no idea in this particular situation whether that's true or not. I'm glad to hear that there are viable candidates. Otherwise, I don't know why we would be extending the list. The other thing that bothers me is that although the education code says 2 years, we have that discretion, our rules say 1 year. Now we're in the process of changing those rules. And one of the reasons we're changing the rules is because they haven't kept up with changes in the education code. And so where we have the right to do something under the education code, and if it's a good idea, I can understand modifying that particular section. So I'm sort of two minds about it. I'd like to hear if anyone else has thoughts about whether to extend it or not. I guess I am curious. This is, I guess, the question that I have, whether the commission has at any time in the past extended a list basically a second time, had an extension for 1 year and then extended it again for another year. I'd be curious whether that's been done in the past or not. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'm going to ask a couple questions. Well, maybe Aaron or somebody can research an answer to Commissioner Roeder's question about have we ever done a second extension. And then I see Mark Joseph has his hand up, so we'll go ahead and ask him to speak as well. To Commissioner Roeder's comment about when we did extend lists, That was something the commission started to do during COVID because for a while it wasn't clear really how we were going to do recruitments, you know, until we started to get better tools and a better sense of how to do it safely and what have you. And right about the time that our interim director, Philip Gordillo, came on, was about the same time where we had started to figure out better ways to do this, you know, so he brought it up, you know, as, you know, standalone, is it a good idea or is it not? And we were poised to start doing it a different way with VidCruiter and things like that. And so we did. I'll comment that I share your concern about, you know, why we would do this. You know, I recognize that there are some folks on the list who are still employees at BUSD and they may absolutely still be interested in this, but it's an old list. And one of the things, you know, that a new recruitment does is it checks for current interest and availability. You know, just because they're still at BUSD doesn't really mean they necessarily want this job. And we owe it to ourselves to take a dip in the talent pool to look for fresh talent. So I'm not inclined to do this because I don't see a need to do it. We have recruitment capability, and right now, as far as I know, actually, this is not even an open position. So, you know, it's not, you know, like we have a fire drill or something we really need to jump on right away either. That might be that exigent concern. So, Mark, I see your hand up. Would you like to go ahead and unmute and speak?
Yes, thank you, Heidi. This is Mark Joseph Ramia and Berkeley High School. I have a question for Charlie. Has the process changed about how the commission deals with, or in general, the reclassification? How is it going to be different from the past? I didn't remember hearing this. Was something scheduled to change about reclassification processes? That's my question. And how would it be different?
Can I suggest that I put your question just on hold 1 second so I can respond to the topic that we're speaking about in this moment? And I'll get back. I'll answer your question. Just let me, I wanted
Forgot to say it was public comment, sorry.
Okay. I don't know that, I don't think, Chairperson, I could be wrong. I don't think we're in public comment yet.
We're not. If you want to reply to that in public comment, that might be a good place to do it.
Yeah, I don't, yes. So, you know, I'll be honest, I don't feel very, very strongly about the extension. However, I might offer, now that I've heard the commissioner's opinions on it, I might offer a remedy, if you will. If a vacancy was to arise, I think we can merge. We have merged lists before. And maybe if a vacancy was to arise in the next 6 months or so, we could just merge this one with the new applicant pool. That might be something I would suggest. But, you know, the world's not going to end if you vote to not extend it either. You know, it's just something that I think in principle, I agree with Roders and Commissioner Roders and Chairperson Goldstein's concerns. However, two things was that I took into consideration. One was we have internal candidates. Sometimes it does become hard for them to get involved in the process. One, two, whenever there is an opportunity for me to make it slightly easier for the person who's already qualified, I'm trying to think of ways that I can incentivize internal candidates to be a part of the process. So there's a lot more maybe complicated reasons for me to propose it, but you know, we actually as a group haven't had a chance to speak about it. So now that I know your feelings on it, in the moment, I would probably recommend maybe a remedy, which is when a list was, if a vacancy was to arise, that we do conduct an open recruitment, but that we possibly consider merging the list with the new list. But again, it's up to the commission. It's not up to me at this point, but that's what I would say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there any more discussion from commissioners?
I guess the one question that I have now is if a position opened up and we merge the two lists, would merging the two lists be a way of not having to have those folks who are on this list have to go through the process all over again? Is that the point of doing that?
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Roeder has a question.
I do. So entirely familiar the lists. I think I've possibly a general idea, but I'm not 100% sure. Before we rely on that as a remedy, can you really merge an expired list into or with a new list? Because this list will, I don't have it right in front of me, but this list is due to expire soon. Like within days. So I don't know. I mean, technically, if that's a solution or not, frankly.
I think that Secretary was talking about a case where if we extended the list and then they did a recruitment, that extended,
Yes.
second extension list would be merged with the new recruitment.
Yes.
That's correct. I'm sorry I didn't make that clear. My remedy was assuming that the list would be extended.
I see. Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it.
I should have been more clear.
Mark Joseph has his hand up again. It looks like a new time. Would you like to go ahead and speak? Yeah.
I was just waiting for the comment time. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Got it. All right. Are we ready to make a motion on this one?
Yes, I would move sort of reluctantly, but nonetheless move that we not extend this list any further.
I'll second that.
I'll agree.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we've agreed not to extend this list. The list will expire, and we can put forward a new recruitment. And I think the last comment I'll make is just balancing competing things. The concern about precedent here is what moves me to support this motion. I love efficiency, and I appreciate the thinking, but I think the flip side is not a place we want to go.
My feelings are not hurt, and this just demonstrates that the process works, because you've approved everything for 6 months and you denied me this one, and I will be okay, and everybody's going to be okay.
Great. All right, thank you.
Can I make one additional comment, Chairperson Goldstein?
Sure.
And that is, I don't, if there isn't a vacancy right now, as Chairperson Goldstein, I think, said, there's no raging fire that's immediate. But on the other hand, we don't have an eligibility list at this time. So I would urge that we move forward with a recruitment at the very earliest opportunity, and not wait until there's a vacancy and then we're scrambling for an eligibility list.
A comment to that, and I'm not sure where I come out on this. We're way overdue for a class and comp, and when we recruit, part of what we say is this is our pay range. And I have a worry that if we recruit now with a pay range that isn't competitive, we may find ourselves with a list, a thin list, or a list of folks who are not as much talent as we could get, after a class and comp study looks at this. So that's sort of the flip side about deciding when to do the recruitment. I'll rely on staff to you know, make their best evaluation of what makes sense with that. But, you know, this is the problem of delaying on the class and comp. When we go out to the market, you know, we go out then.
The last thing I'll say, because I know we've moved on and that's fine, but we also use those lists for limited term assignments, which I always feel a little better about using folks on lists for those, but you know, it's okay. We look forward to doing a new recruitment. So thank you.
And it looks like Glenda Lee, HR has a comment. So let's let her speak.
And actually, regarding what Charlie said, we do use it for substitutes. And because the work in HR is confidential and it's hard to train people, so the people that are on that list are already trained, been doing some work for the sub. So it's just it's a little bit difficult to just get new people and retrain on all the HR processes that are cumbersome and confidential. So anyway, I know I'm a little late. The vote already happened, but there's that.
Okay, no, thank you for the perspective, and you know, maybe that's the argument for why we go out anyway. And you know, we know who to poke here at the district, that they should reapply.
Where were you 5 minutes ago? No, just kidding.
Right. All right, let's move on to closed session. It's 5:42. I don't anticipate. Great. And based on Commissioner Roeder's suggestion that we ask Secretary Castillo to respond to Mark Ramia's earlier question before we go into closed session, let's go ahead and do that.
Mr. Ramia, am I pronouncing your name correctly, sir? I'm sorry.
That's fine. That's Mark Ramia, Berkeley High School. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to restate the question just to make sure I understand it. And then if you can confirm for me, then I'll answer it. If I understood your question correctly, it was in regards to the reclass process and what it entailed and if the process had changed. Do I have your question correct?
That's partially it. And I'm also curious if things are just changing as of this moment with this particular case, or did things change before about the reclassification process? You were talking about as things moving forward earlier. That's what I was curious.
And by this moment, do you mean tonight's meeting?
Yes, that I'm curious if I'm understanding it correctly.
So the question is, did the reclassification process change as of this meeting?
Has it been, or is it? It seems like I'm aware of it just this evening. I'm not paying total attention over the last several months, but has it changed? Is it just during this particular case? And what would it look like moving forward as compared to in the past?
Well, the best way I could answer it is, to my knowledge, the intent of the process has not changed. I can't speak to previous directors because I mean, in all honesty, I have looked at some of the work product, but in terms of what they've done or haven't done, I can only conclude from the end product itself. As you may or may not know, there was a lot of turnover in my position. So I have had the opportunity to talk to a couple of my predecessors, but what I will say is I think the process is meant to be fluid. And the reason it's meant to be fluid is because there's no reclass, or no two reclasses that I've found so far are the same. So I think it's at the executive director's discretion to be thorough for that person. It's me now, but for that person in the position to be thorough, to be complete, to be able to answer questions from the commission, and to again hold the highest bar of clarity and thoroughness, so that when the question is asked, does it meet the 2 years as stated in the rules, that you can defend it, or that you can defend the decision that you're not recommending for the reclass. But that's the best way I can answer it. I hope that answers your question.
Secretary, I think one of the things that may have looked a little different was the clarification that Marie Ferguson gave, that she was asking for a salary reclass, not a position reclass.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I would like you to go through your process because salary is, and you know, where a position sits on the wage schedule is a bargained phenomena. You know, I think that the way you described addressing a reclass is pretty consistent with the merit rules and how that process works. As a byproduct, you may find new things that warrant a salary schedule change, and that's going to be a bargained element. I see that Mildred has her hand up. Mildred, is your comment germane to this? Someone needs to unmute her, please. Not unmuting, or can Mildred, you have to agree to be unmuted. There's a pop-up box. All right, maybe Mildred walked away. Okay, we'll continue on. And
Did you want me to answer the question, Chairperson?
Please.
Okay. So I understand Ms. Ferguson's request. However, I'm not entirely sure that I could separate the analysis to almost bifurcate salary versus the class. I think that they are one and the same. And just from what I know of the rules, they are treated the same. We recently had a reclass that I recommended to the commission, in which the byproduct of the reclass was that the person would be in a different class and therefore be in a different salary grade. If I was to tackle the salary grade itself, as you mentioned, Chairperson, I can't, that would be neighboring into bargaining territory. In other words, our friends at BCCE and the district have basically attached what they believe to be the salary grade to the job. Therefore, I would be violating that agreement in a way by bifurcating a salary attached to a job class. So to me, in the interpretation of the rules, I think they're one and the same. If the salary grade was to be looked at, it would be within the scope of the job classification itself.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Does anybody else have any comments apropos to this? All right, Mildred, I can't tell if you're back, but I guess that little box is going to be there when she gets back. So she'll unmute whenever she comes back and sees that. Then
I'm
let's.
back. Sorry, you guys. You know, I'll be multitasking. I'm back. Did you need me?
Okay.
Sorry.
My question was if you had something germane to this.
No, ma'am, I don't.
All right, so you're raising your hand for something else later?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm good. I'm good, Ms. Ghost.
Okay. All right. And now I see.
Thank you for
Malika has her
asking and
hand
thinking
up.
about me, you guys. I appreciate it.
You guys are messing with me.
Y'all made me feel loved today. Thank you.
I get it. All right. I see Malika has her hand up. Will you unmute her?
I think there's something wrong. I never raised my hand and press anything.
Oh, that's so weird. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe it's me. Okay, maybe I've got my cursor in the wrong place. Okay, user error.
Hi,
Sorry.
Malika.
Let's go to closed session. Let's go to closed session so I can't do any more damage. All right, Mildred's back. Malika's back. All right, welcome back, everyone. It's 6:17. So we were just a little more than 20 minutes in closed session. And the report from closed session is the commissioners discussed how they want to conduct the executive director's 8-month review and developed a timeline and came to closure on the template that we'll be using. I'll move now to item 11, which is public comment. Is there anyone who'd like to make public comment? Okay, hearing none. Item 12, our next meetings. We have a special meeting on April 13th. That's a Wednesday at 9 a.m. as Commissioner Roeder spoke about earlier. for our next slug of merit rules work. And then our next regular meeting is on Thursday, the 14th at 4:30. And with that, we will declare victory and adjourn at 6:18. I hope everybody has a good month. Oh, wait, Mildred, I'm
have her
sorry.
hand up?
I just noticed your hand up. All right, so
Right at the end there, Mildred.
we can double back. Go ahead. And you'll have to unmute yourself.
I just wanted to say thank you. That's my comment.
Thank you for
wow.
making it easy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I wanted to say was thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Mildred.
Sweet.
Is
Thank
baby
you,
with
Mildred.
you? Is baby with you? All right. Say hi to baby.
Thanks, Mildred. Have a good night.
Beautiful people. Goodbye.
All
Bye-bye.
right.
Good night.
Bye, everyone.
Night, everyone.